Unnerving confession threads. In 5th grade, I pushed a girl in a monkey cage enclosure and ripped the skin of her arms off. I attended an elementary school that is near to a small park where there were about 10 exotic animals like hawks, snakes, and monkeys. It's basically a small zoo. We usually wait there for our school service to arrive. We were just sitting around the bird cage-like enclosure of this aggressive monkey that we were making fun of and waiting for the school service to arrive. When the school service arrived, we all stood up and raced to the school service front seat. I knew that I won't be first, so I pushed the girl who's in front of me. She tripped close to the cage. The monkey got startled and went crazy instantly. The monkey grabbed her arm and ripped her skin off in one bite. It is the gnarliest thing I ever saw. Her face turned pale white, I think because of the shock and loss of blood. We carry her out of the park while she and some of us were stained with her blood. An old guy who was working in the park sees us and immediately carried her and called an ambulance. The day after that, the monkey is not in the park anymore, and we have a new school service driver. Edit. This happened in the Philippines. I'm living in Canada now. And for those people who keep telling me this is fake and making this up for karma, which I don't know what that's for, I hope you guys are right. I made this account to find this movie in the subreddit called Tip of My Tongue and got a recommendation for this subreddit. I saw people in here posting horrible stuff that they've done, so I tried my best telling mine. I get that I'm getting so much hate for this. What I did was horrible, and I really wished I'd make it up to her. She got a pretty messed up centipede-like keloid scar on her arm without knowing that I am the one who pushed her. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, "Damn, did you get in trouble or did no one find out that you pushed them? Did the girl know it was you?" And the OP replied and said, "I didn't. They all thought it was an accident and blamed it all to the monkey and the school service driver for being late and irresponsible." I took back my cheating ex just to F with her head. My ex and I had been dating for 2 years when I realized she was the woman I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. We never fought or argued. We got along swimmingly. I trusted her implicitly and felt she was as good as it was ever going to get. I bought a ring she had gone out of her way to fawn over and planned on asking her to marry me after we got back from vacation. I even called her dad and asked him to have lunch with me so I could ask for his permission to marry his daughter. Mere days before I planned on proposing, she suddenly stopped returning my calls and texts. We never really went more than a day or so without speaking, so I decided to stop by her house after work to check on her. We had keys to each other's houses, and it wasn't out of the ordinary to let ourselves into the other's house if we needed to. Her car wasn't there, and an SUV I didn't recognize was in the driveway. I let myself in with the intention of leaving her a note to call me. When I opened the door to her bedroom, I heard the shower running and her voice coming from the bathroom. I froze when I realized I heard a male voice as well. I took a couple steps into the room and realized they weren't speaking. They were panting and moaning. I heard her trademark pleasure noises. I'm not going to get into what he said, but basically that. I was listening to my girlfriend having intimacy with another man. While I had no intention of confronting them, I still wanted to see it with my own eyes. So I walked to the open door of the bathroom and looked into the mirror that faced the shower. Sure enough, there she was, cheating on me. I left. Almost as soon as I get home, she texts, "Hey, sorry, I've been out of touch. I've been staying at my mom's because I was sick." I ignore her calls and texts for a couple of days and return the ring before I finally confront her in person. She loses it. She calls me a stalker, says I invaded her privacy and she's glad she cheated on me because I'm such a POS. She won't answer me on how long it has been going on or who he was, so I left. Fast forward several months. My ex is in a relationship with this guy, and I'm casually seeing a younger girl I really like, but I know I have no long-term future with her. She's drop-dead gorgeous, witty as hell, has an insatiable appetite for intimacy, and she's an incredible cook. The only downside is she's a huge party animal. Doesn't matter what day of the week it is or what time she has to get up in the morning, she's getting staggering drunk and doing booger sugar like it's her job. She never pressures me to get serious or commit, so I figure I'll ride it out until the endless partying gets on my nerves. After finding out I'm seeing someone, my ex starts blowing up my phone, apologizing and begging me to take her back. She says it was a stupid mistake. She said I worked too much and didn't pay enough attention to her, but she's never stopped loving me. She said being with someone who doesn't appreciate her helped her realize I'm the best thing that ever happened to her. I don't want her back in the slightest. The minute I saw the person she was with, cheating on her, I was done with her. I've spent months being heartbroken over breakups before, but for some reason, actually seeing her infidelity helped me instantly move on. Not to say there weren't a few sleepless nights or wild-ass benders, but I didn't sit around pinning for her. As far as I was concerned, she was trash and I was over it. I initially ignored her, but decided that she has presented me with a premium opportunity to exact some revenge. I call her back and tell her I'm willing to talk, but give no indicator on which way I'm leaning in terms of reconciliation. I arrange to meet her at a park near her house and show up 15 minutes late. She's sweating bullets, chain smoking, visibly trembling, upper lip quivering while she begs for forgiveness. At this point, I didn't really have a plan in place. I just knew that I was going to mess with her, so I let her beg. I eventually cut her off and asked, "How can I ever trust you again?" "She'll earn it back," she said. "She'll work tirelessly to regain my trust, and she'll show me how important I am to her." I'm intrigued to see how far I can push her, so I tell her I'm willing to give it a shot, when in reality, I'm just scheming ways to make her feel like total crap about herself. She invites me back to her place, where she basically tears off my pants as soon as I cross the threshold and starts doing some intimate things to me. We have intimacy. She's always liked it rough, really rough. And then they get super duper freaky, and the OP says she couldn't be happier. She falls asleep and I sneak out. I check my phone and have a booty call text from Party Animal, so I tell her to meet me at my place. We get roaring drunk and have intimacy. In the morning, I walk her out and see that there's a piece of paper taped to my windshield. It's from my ex. It says, "Just wanted to tell you how much I love you. Have a good day." When I realize she came over to leave me a love note while I was in bed with another woman, I feel an immense sense of satisfaction. So I kept it up for a couple of months. I never told Party Animal that I was having intimacy with my ex, but I got the feeling she wouldn't really care. One of my friends said he saw her at this bar, making out and eventually leaving with some dude. So I figured she was doing the same thing, and it didn't really matter. I never outright told my ex I was having intimacy with anyone else, but occasionally I dropped some non-too-subtle hints about my affection for Party Animal. Since she was playing the penitent role, she wasn't in a position to accuse me of anything, or even show signs of discontent. I took it up a notch. I started making X buy my groceries, cook me dinner, take my car to her father's auto detailing shop and get my car cleaned, run my errands, and have intimacy on command. I was cultivating a sadistic side of me that I didn't really know existed, and I was pushing it to an extreme that eventually made me feel too guilty to continue. As the smacking and hair pulling had become rote, I got into the habit of putting her in uncomfortable positions during intimacy, and stuff that you only see in adult videos and think no one does that in real life. If she didn't like it, she never let on. She did it all for me, grinned and bore it. One night she came over, made me dinner, and packed my gym bag for the morning. Then we had intimacy. She broke down and cried during. She sobbed and said, "I want to be your wife. I want to be yours forever." When that line sunk in, I realized I had tortured her enough, but not before I used it as an excuse to end it with her. I acted shocked, said that was too much too soon and that she was suffocating me. Told her to go home and I'd call her when I was ready to see her again. She was shaking with long, racking sobs, and she begged me not to leave her. Pangs of genuine guilt were prevalent as I realized I had really just taken this too far and my ego had gotten out of control. I never spoke to her again. She attempted to get a hold of me incessantly for a couple of months, stopped by the house for a few times, luckily never when I was home, and even showed up at my job asking to speak with me. But I managed to avoid every attempt, and eventually she gave up. And she got back with the person she initially cheated on me with. They're engaged now. Party Animal and I had a bit of a falling out when I decided I couldn't keep up with her maniac partying, but we eventually became very good friends. No matter how much I may have thought so at the time, X didn't deserve what I did to her. I surprised myself with how much pleasure I took in hurting her, and it eventually started to sicken me how sadistic I was acting. I can't necessarily say I'm proud of myself, but at least a little part of me was satisfied. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One person says, "Holy crap, dude." Another user says, "Stuff like this just scares me." Someone else says, "Damn, dude, I'm all for revenge to a lying and cheating girl, but man, it totally sounded like you went too far. The fact that she didn't give up on pleasing you for as long, despite how much you were torturing her, kind of says something on her part, or at least in my opinion. It kind of sounds like she tried as hard as she could to repair the relationship, but you wouldn't let her." I do not want my H/opiate addicted sister to recover. My sister was always just a sad person. I can remember this from when we were young. I don't think I fully processed the depths of it, but I noticed then, and the more I think of it as an adult, the more obvious and the sadder it is to realize. She started sneaking alcohol at 13, and by 16 was drinking and smoking weed daily, with occasional uses of pills. Then at around 19, she got into a bunch of other sort of pills, and by 21, she was a full-blown H addict. At 24, she got pregnant with my nephew, Tommy, not his real name, and stayed clean through her whole pregnancy and had him. Despite almost a decade of various addictions that had done a bit of damage to her body, he was healthy and happy. She and Tommy were fine for about 3 months, but she got back into the painkillers, and eventually, H. Luckily, my mom caught it early, and instead of getting the courts involved in all that drama, we all agreed my mom would take the baby in, and she could have him back when she was sober for a full year. Well, my mom was older and stressed at work as a nurse at an understaffed hospital. And because I was home after graduating college with no job, I ended up doing almost all the work raising him from 3 months on. I even put off getting a job to be with him. I eventually got a job and started saving up to move. My job had discounted childcare, a huge perk, so we decided it made the most sense to take Tommy with me, about 2 hours from home, because it would be too expensive for my mom to pay, and my sister still wasn't sober. I have now had Tommy for almost 7 years. I know he is not my son, but he is my son. I am so attached to him, it is unhealthy. I love him more than anything. He is my best friend. I feel deeply bonded to him. There are no words to describe how much I feel about this boy. We've done everything together for 7 whole years. Literally every day. I have never gone more than 5 or 6 hours without him, and that's only since he started school last year. If I'm being honest, I know this is unhealthy. Even if he were my own biological son, I'm still sad and scared. My sister has been sober 8 months, which is about as far as she's ever gotten. I want her to be healthy and happy, but I don't want to give Tommy back if she makes it the full year. She's starting coming up to my place for weekends, and I know she wants him back. That is what is keeping her in this fight for sobriety, but it is killing me on the inside. I need him. I will pray for her. I want her to be happy. I feel terrible. I'm not wishing for her failure, but I know deep down I don't want her to be sober so that I can keep Tommy with me. It makes me feel like a horrible person to feel this way. I love him so much. I love her so much. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, that's some brutal honesty. Another user says, maybe she can move in with you and you could both co-parent Tommy for a while. If it is a good living situation, then no need to change. But it doesn't work, then at least you tried. Children need stability. And is it really the best thing for Tommy to move him to a new school and have him move into a new house and with a new guardian all at once? And someone replies and says, I was thinking the same thing. Kid getting stability and support from OP. The mother has a helping hand raising the kid and someone to help avoid temptation. Someone else says, thankfully your nephew is old enough to know the difference between normal behavior versus a junkie's behavior and can tell someone if she begins using again. In a perfect world, mom will stay clean and give her son the best possible life. However, the same desire/need for her to be high and forsake her son at 3 months will probably reel its ugly head again. Support your sister and nephew by encouraging her sobriety and staying a constant in his life. Sadly, the odds are in your favor that you will continue raising him. And someone else says, file for custody or call a lawyer and see what options you have. You are that child's parent and all he knows. Mom can be the fun aunt. It is not in his best interest to be taken from his parents to go to an unstable environment. Sorry, but the odds are against her, statistically speaking. And someone replies and says, minute OP is getting lawyers, social workers, courts, or police involved, that is the minute she can kiss her family goodbye. Seriously, people, learn to settle your problems inside your house. And someone else says, agreed, OP, at least speak to a lawyer to learn what your options are. And then finally, someone says, you are Tommy's parent. Your sister has never been there for him. She selfishly chose drugs over her child for many, many years. A new attempt to get sober does not change that. If your sister really loves Tommy, then she needs to understand how devastating it would be for a young child to be torn away from the only parent he's ever known. She needs to put his needs over her own wishes and leave him with you. Perhaps she could have visitation with him at your house. You don't need to stick to an agreement that someone else made about when she could have him back. And someone else agrees and says this, I was scared to say it like this because I understand addiction can be insanely hard, but I think that OP is 100% this kid's father, and the sister shouldn't be able to just take the kid back. And this was the only post we have ever received from the OP, and that is just such a heartbreaking situation. And I wonder what ended up happening, and I wonder if the OP kept custody of the boy, or if the OP sister ended up getting custody, or did it tear apart their relationship, or did it strengthen it and they did a co-parenting situation? I mean, that is such a hard situation, and I really hope they were able to figure it out, and I hope the little boy was able to grow up in a good environment, and the OP's sister was able to get clean. But who knows if the best scenario happened or if the worst scenario happened. Who knows, but I just hope everyone involved is doing better now. I abused someone when I was 18, and now I am terrified to live and be me. Strap in. This is going to be a long one. These are many confessions rather than one instance. Hello, guys. I need to write about my life, or my head will eventually explode. I am 26 male, trying to piece together what made life so subjectively intolerable to live up to this point. I've been hiding my true self and feelings for a long time now. After about 6 years of therapy, first for depression and now for addiction to adult videos and social anxiety, I found out that I deeply believe I don't deserve to get better, hence the lack of improvement in mental health. I wondered why things weren't getting better. Now I believe I know. Before you jump to conclusions such as everyone deserves to get better, I would like to list out experiences I've had, decisions I made, and actions I took so you can decide for yourself with more context. I deeply hope that this turns out useful for someone else, although I don't quite know how that should be the case. And honestly, there is a faint hope left I might be able to forgive myself and finally feel better. It is the dark reality of my life. Something more disturbing than a usual post perhaps, but here goes nothing. A quick warning. I will mention things that some may find disturbing. This text contains themes of SA, taboo, addiction, shame, and so on. Anyways, let's get into it. When I was a young kid, I couldn't sleep. I was scared. So I walked up to my parents' room and asked if I could sleep in their bed. After some back and forth, they gave in, and they allowed me to sleep in their bed. A little later, lights out and eyes closed, my parents had intimacy right beside me. I couldn't see anything, but I could feel them moving, hear the sounds. I didn't know what to make of it, but this memory stuck with me to this day. Maybe I was traumatized back then. I don't know. Anyhow, it set me on a trajectory very unfitting for a child. This trajectory looks as follows. In primary school, we had some teacher talk about intimacy for the first time. I vividly remember how fascinated I was. I was in 4th grade. Her description on how two people do it and whatever stuck with me. Maybe a bit too enthusiastic for an adult talking to kids, at least in hindsight, but it indeed was part of the curriculum. They wanted to teach us early so no one would get pregnant in high school. Around the same time, I remember my parents watching a movie. At the foot end of their bed, a TV was propped up on a box. It was a normal evening after all, and I wanted to join them in watching the movie. My parents tolerated me being there, so I watched the movie with them. It was about a brother and a sister knowingly having a romantic relationship. A weird type of drama, but I don't remember much of the film besides its premise. Looking back, it was quite inappropriate for a kid. Again, it stuck with me, and with that, an idea was born. Maybe I could try that with my sister. This idea was cemented in my brain. My sister was 2 years younger than me at the time. I remember asking my dad a day or two later, is it okay for a sister and a brother to marry? He answered that it is not, and that indeed it was illegal for brother and sister to marry. I knew back then that this is not okay in some way. I started talking to my sister, telling her about this thing called intimacy and the feelings it supposedly produced. I used words not unlike to what our teachers told us about and what I took away from the movie. For weeks I talked to her, but mentioned that it was something she couldn't talk about to anyone. The manipulation by me seems shocking looking back. And then the OP gets into some gross details, which I will not read, but basically they just escalate it further. And anyways, let's continue on. The OP says, a few days after this experience, some girls a little older than me came up to me at school. They called me out for what I did to my sister. They said I was disgusting and a weird creep. My secret was out. Of course, my little sister wanted to share her exciting thing with her friends, and those friends then mentioned it to their friends, and so on. The shame. Oh, the shame I felt. I hid behind bushes, got quiet in class. I usually was the troublemaker, sat in my room at home and worried my parents would find out. I knew I would leave this school to go to secondary school early. Was a typical gifted kid, so I changed schools 2 years early, and the summer vacation was approaching. I already passed the test to get in. At a young age, I told myself, we will start a new life and no one will ever know. This is something you can never tell anyone. This left a scar on my soul I can hardly put into words, and actively I created the situation. How despicable. My parents did eventually find out. They came into my room and confronted me. I don't remember much of that day, or all the days around this time for that matter. I do remember my mom and dad talking in the kitchen afterwards. My door was open and I could hear them. My dad took the side of, kids do that sometimes. It is not talked about much, but it happens regularly. It was just plain. My mom was taking a different side. There is something seriously wrong with him. What is wrong with him? To add some context, my mom used to shame me all my life. Every time I cried at a gathering or was too loud or disrupted anyone, she would reprimand me and afterwards would say, "You're weird. Everyone was weirded out by you. They're just too polite to say to you, but I spoke to them afterwards and they couldn't believe how you acted." Now, this wasn't something rare. It was an everyday thing. I was also weird because I was best in class, so many kids treated me with disdain. I knew that most kids weren't interested in what I found fascinating, and they let me have it sometimes because of that. Even my friends sometimes bullied me, although nothing crazy. As an adult, I got diagnosed with ADHD, so you can sure believe as a kid, I wasn't the most quiet chap. I too cried easily and got angry pretty quickly. Naturally, I believed my mom was right. She knew I believed her, and she pulled that lever whenever she could. My dad was very timid but warm. Sometimes after I got scolded, he came up to me and tried to comfort me. He was an alcoholic. I remember the smell of beer and cigarettes in his breath, but at least he loved me. Somehow. So I was a weirdo, and nothing I did or said would have a positive impact to our family, despite my academic achievements, but even then, I was still a weirdo that just couldn't quite get at what was wrong with him. Even as early as very young, I concluded that my family would be better off without me. I thought I deserved to no longer be here. I tried to commit S-word. I ran away regularly, crying myself to sleep. I was so sorry for causing everyone so much distress. I ruined gatherings, did weird stuff with my sister, and even my friends knew about me in school, or so I believed when I was a kid. Subconsciously, I believe this to this day, more abstractly and more intrinsically, but still. I then started watching adult videos. Puberty was early and hit hard when it came to exploration. I've already seen the kind of softer adult videos, and after midnight, these commercials for adult videos would come up. I started watching those, and when puberty hit, I would do stuff to those. Quickly, I moved on to my computer and soon progressed to real adult videos. Every day, I watched adult videos, even when my sister was sleeping in the same room. Sometimes I'd still climb in her bed and, touch her. It sickens me to admit this. I didn't really learn from the first time, did I? That happened maybe 3 times. From that age onwards, nothing happened anymore towards my sister. What can hold a younger teen responsible for? I don't know, but it sickens me what my sister had to endure. I might have traumatized her for life. I am so incredibly sorry for what I have done. She was an innocent girl, and I poisoned her life. And things don't end here. My adult video habit stuck. I got used to watching it daily, and I got desensitized quickly. I progressed towards more sibling love themes. I even watched and did stuff to people having intimacy with animals at multiple points. It's disgusting to admit, but I'm wrestling with the reality of those decisions and experiences. I even had my dog, my family dog, lick my you-know-what. This was all during puberty. There were many interests I developed at that time. I am desperately trying to blame it on puberty, prior trauma, and the interests adult video addicts experience, but I find my past behavior so reprehensible that I cannot find peace in that explanation. And on to the last confession. I SA'd my first girlfriend. When I was around 18, I met my first girlfriend. We started getting intimate and I had a pretty inexhaustible libido. My adult video habit was running rampant too, like it has since I was young. Sometimes my girlfriend didn't want to have intimacy. I ended up doing it anyways when she was asleep. She woke up but endured. I believe this is blatant SA. R word. It happened many times. It stopped and we talked about it too. I never held her down or forced her physically. Not that that makes it anything less than R word, but I want to emphasize that detail. The sheer act of assaulting her like that is enough of a crime against humanity on its own. We talked about that phase afterwards, even when we were still together. She wasn't angry, but clearly pointed out she wouldn't tolerate such behavior anymore. That's when it stopped. How courageous of her, and how kind despite the severity of my actions. She was truly a good soul. And yet I violated a human being like that. We stayed together after that for a while. We ended up breaking up eventually, although my aforementioned actions weren't discussed as causes when we split. Maybe she moved on. Maybe it was too painful to bring up again. Today, I am terrified of people, especially of women. I have trouble buying groceries or taking the tram since the panic borders on unbearable. I can hold a job, but I cringe at myself talking to my colleagues and my need for validation. I make every single encounter intimate, men or women, friends or coworkers. Not as in taking their clothes off in my mind, but everything feels way too intimate. A hug makes me cringe because two bodies so close to each other makes me feel uncomfortable. It is so tiring. It feels like a virus in my brain, like a parasite. I think about committing S-word from time to time still. I go to therapy and try every day to better myself, but lately, I feel tired of fighting. Maybe I blew it. This attempt at life. I work on getting this adult video thing under control and hope that maybe one day I'll have a happy family, but I don't think I deserve that. None of what I've done I would do again. I have no trouble controlling my urges, or rather, I don't have the urges. More recent relationships were emotionally troubled, but not in a manner mentioned before. I think I am in a normal adult by now. I almost feel like I am stuck with the past of someone that isn't me anymore, yet the guilt and the shame remains. I don't think I'll be able to beat my depression, anxiety, and addiction before I let go of all of that, but then again, I don't know if someone who did what I did deserves anything but ridicule. That's it for now. Thank you for your attention. If you have questions about anything, feel free to ask, and I'll be happy to answer. Edit. Comments pointed out that I left out how these things affected both my sister and my ex-girlfriend. I agree that I provided a very self-centered account, and I am ashamed that I have left them out to such an extent. I responded to many comments where the side of my sister and of my ex-girlfriend find more expression. They are victims in this, and as a perpetrator, I should have given them more attention in this post. They have to carry this weight of my wrongdoings, a fate I can hardly comprehend. I can't tell their story, and any attempt at speaking for them beyond what they personally told me would be again violating their boundaries. I edited this post many times to correct some of the language, like I think I assaulted to I assaulted, as to not downplay my actions. I also added some additional information here and there. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, "Keep going to therapy. Don't come to Reddit for advice or opinions. I think most people are not qualified to give healthy or useful commentary here." And the OP replies and says, "Thank you for your comment. I learned through therapy that the internet is not real life, that most lives are filled with more regret and mistakes than is apparent just by looking at people. I'll keep going to therapy, of course. I feel like I failed at being a decent person so early in life that I blew it. I still don't believe I deserve to get better, which ironically makes therapy way more complicated. But then again, should someone like me forgive themselves? Anyhow, I appreciate the comment you left and will remind myself that Reddit is often polarizing, knowing full well my post attracts a strong reaction by some. If the truth of my life does that, so be it." Another user says, "I don't know what to say. This is really, really bad, but guilt is good. Therapy." Someone else says, "It's all a bit much, but it takes a lot of courage to talk about all that. The important thing is that you're aware of your mistakes and that you're continuing with therapy so it doesn't happen again." Someone else says, "God damn." And someone else says, "Holy crap, seek serious help and don't talk to your sister about what happened unless she brings it up. As someone who's a victim of a similar situation, if my abuser tried to talk to me about it, I would very much not be okay. You are a R-wordist. What you did to your girlfriend was R-word, and what you did to your sister was horrible. You should get into therapy right away and stay the F away from women." And the OP replies and says, "I've stayed in therapy for years now and will continue to do so. I stay in contact with my sister. I know that I will not violate her integrity by bringing this up. It is her decision, and I know that. We did talk about our childhood many times. The many bad things that happened in our family was something to not carry or digest alone. We're really close now that we are adults. I am very proud of her. I had relationships after splitting up with my first girlfriend. No problems or urges in those. I also told partners about my past too. I alluded in other comments that making things intimate doesn't mean fantasizing for me. It means that contact towards people feels too intimate for me. Even a hug or a handshake, and it makes me shy away from saying hello to people, for example. Maybe what I've done means I don't deserve to ever have a wife or a family despite having none of the tendencies I used to. I get that perspective, but since I'm a human being, I still desire those things. I will consider your perspective. Thank you for your comment." And someone else says, "Well, at least you have a working conscience. Now do better and stay away from your sister." I am a peeping Tom who recorded my friend using my toilet. To start, I've always had this interest by watching videos online. It never got so bad to the point of a few weeks ago when I decided to have my friends over to my house. After the date was set, I purchased a couple of expensive cameras to put in my bathroom. When my friends came over, I would interact with them while waiting for one of them to use the toilet. When one of my friends did, I got so excited about it. Once everyone went home, I immediately watched the video on my phone and relieved my lust. After that, I felt shame and guilt, especially because this friend is such a lovely and kind person. I know what I did is horrible and evil, but the lust just keeps coming back, and I keep watching the video over and over and over again. It has been several weeks and I still have the video. I know I should delete it, but the temptation is too strong, and I worry I would feel regret if I delete the video or if I throw away the cameras. And man, that is just disgusting, but let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, "This is a huge violation of trust and consent, and also very illegal. You need to confess to your friend and tell them what you did. And the OP replies and says, here's the thing. I know what I did is wrong. However, if I tell her, I fear it'll impact her a lot and also me. I won't pretend to be a saint. I would definitely be worried about my reputation too. But I don't know how to proceed with this. Therapy, I worry that it might not help me and just out me as a perv. I committed this crime. I understand the impact this would have over my victim, but the fear of it impacting my life seems higher to me. I am selfish. I wish I did not have these tendencies in the first place, simply because of the stress and fear I go through even recording it. Then the money spent on the equipment, and finally for putting my friend in this position. And then someone replies and says, at least delete the video and don't do it again? How can you look at that friend in the eye ever again? Super gross guy. And someone else says, F your reputation, lol. You violated someone. And someone else says, so you're a predator. Got it. Get help and stop abusing your victims. And someone else says, I can definitely say that you should delete the video and rehabilitate yourself in an indoor group, so that way you can get help needed in your situation. On the other side, I'd also say that if these friends of yours are not over 18, then that just makes it worse. Whatever age you are, it is still vile regardless. Confess to your friend after you help yourself out. And the OP replies and says, she is over 18, and I agree it is vile regardless. I'm trying to muster the strength to delete the video, because the lure is very strong. I need to find a good therapist for this and hope it helps. And everyone else just says delete the video, which totally makes sense, but we don't know what the OP does because the OP's account was banned after this. But God, what a disgusting, gross, and just vile confession. I ruined most of my life by going to prison right out of high school. In 1999, when I was 18 and fresh out of high school, I killed someone. Was eventually caught and sent to prison to serve a life sentence. In prison, I was R-worded many times, assaulted and broke multiple bones. Now, 19 and a half years later, after 19 years in prison, I'm unemployed, have severe PTSD, and have nothing but a high school diploma. I feel as if I am worthless. I can't justify myself getting treatment due to myself being a murderer, and I hate myself with passion. I'm nearly 40, and I have ruined my life. I'm halfway through to the retirement age and I have nothing. I'm broke, can't get a job due to having a record, and I have to wait 5 more years to be pardoned and have my record cleared. Edit. Thanks for all the support. For those of you wondering who I killed, it was an old high school bully that affected most of the kids in the school. Guess I thought I was being righteous or doing everyone else a favor by getting rid of him. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, I know the words of any random person over the internet won't change your life in a snap, but I'd like to tell you a story of a friend of mine who is very similar. He also killed someone and went to prison. I don't know how long he served, but when he was released, he re-met my mom. They were high school friends and made her happy during her and my stepfather's divorce, and he became my best friend too. He was the wisest person I'd ever known and was more kind than anyone I had ever met. He passed away about 4 years ago, and he left me 2 of his sweaters that he wore often. I wore them to remember how much he helped my mom get through the stress, and how he helped me through the psychological and physical abuse I got from my stepdad. So, be the best person you can be. Don't let your mistakes and your bad experiences define who you are now. If you teach others through what you have learned, you may save someone's life, like he did for me. And someone else says, shouldn't have killed someone then. No sympathy here. You're still breathing. Imagine killing someone, going to jail for it, and when you're freed, you feel bad for yourself on how your life is. Is this even real life? 18M. I use booger sugar daily, and it is absolutely destroying me. I started doing booger sugar about 7 or 8 months ago. I started off at festivals with my friends or nightclubs, but now I'm doing it daily the past 3 weeks or so. I knew from the second I used it for the first time that it was my drug of choice. I smoke weed daily, and I've used many other pills and a few others, but none ever clicked with me the same way booger sugar did. I work full time and have a good relationship with my family and friends, and I don't know where this addiction has come from. When I'm not high, I don't crave it, but the second I do a little, I can't stop. I'm doing a lot daily, sometimes more, sometimes less. It's not really affecting my life too much. I still go to work, I still see my friends, my family, and no one knows about my addiction. My biggest problem is nighttime, where I can't put down the booger sugar, and I work a manual laboring job with an early start, so it's not at all sustainable to be taking booger sugar late at night. It's currently 3 a.m. as I'm writing this, and I'm up for work in about 2 hours. I feel like I'm losing control of my life, but at the same time, I feel happy throughout the day when I'm not using, but also empty. I don't even know how to explain it. It's like 1 minute I'm inside my head thinking about how much I hate this drug and what it's doing to me and how much I want to stop. And then the next minute I'm happy, joking around, full of energy. And then I switch up again and start thinking about doing a lot when I get home. I don't know what to do. I'm using a lot a week, and if I go out to party on the weekend, I'll easily go through a ton throughout the night. I don't know what to do and how to break this addiction, or how to feel about it and how to stop justifying it, and telling myself every night that it's my last time and then going straight back to it the next day. It's messing me up, and I'm just stuck in this vicious cycle with no way out. Thank you to everyone who took their time to read this. I'm not expecting to get anything out of it. I just needed to say it somehow, somewhere. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, 18 and you've been using it daily for 3 weeks? Brother, you can kick this. Or you can destroy your heart, your nasal passages, your wallet, and eventually your relationships. Trust me on this one. And then the OP replies and says, I know how stuff like this ends. Addiction is very common in my family. Mainly H. These people aren't a part of my life anymore, but all these things just don't stop me from doing it. I've thought about all the possible outcomes. None positive. And none of them will change my mind. I feel like I'm just stuck in an endless loop. And someone replies and says, seek addiction counseling if you need help. There are free phone lines you can call to. 24 hours non-judgmental. And another user says, there's a 100% chance you will stop doing booger sugar one day. Whether it's because you're dead, or because you've lost everything to addiction, or because you chose to today. That's the part that is up to you. And someone else says, honestly, just dump it and take 2 to 3 days off. Get Gatorade and plan on takeout. Tell people you have the flu. Watch movies, play video games, don't use your brain too much. Shower. You will feel so much better after some sleep. And just rest in your body and brain. You aren't too far in where it's going to take you a ton of time to bounce back. You're young too, so you have that on your side. And someone replies and says, good advice right here. I would also suggest to buy some favorite candies, splurge items, buy all those phone games you've wanted to buy, and so much sleep. Sleeping and giving your brain dopamine rewards from other things can pull a lot of people out of addiction. Sleep, distraction, sleep, eat, distraction, sleep. Addiction is so hard. And someone else says, it took me hitting rock bottom to quit. And someone replies and says, yep, same. Sadly, this is what it takes most people to realize it's a problem. Unfortunately, sometimes it's too late by then. OP, start thinking long-term here. You have to get off this ride while you still can. I was up to around a lot a day at the peak of my addiction. It wasn't until I lost everything and only had my parents left by my side that I finally woke the F up and started on the path of getting clean. It's been 18 years now. Don't let it get away from you. Get it under control ASAP. And then someone else says, addiction therapist here, you're in a good frame of mind to kick this. It's just going to have to come with sacrifices from you. From your explanation here, you're recognizing a lot and identifying how much this has taken over quickly. Sooner, you can get into a comfortable frame of mind to focus on work or healthy alternatives. You can 180 here. If the cannabis helps, stick with it in moderation. Truthfully though, this can be a slippery slope quick for you. I've seen many nasal users building a tolerance, then turn to smoking it, or eventually turn to harder alternatives. Septum can deviate, then your nose is disfigured until you go to a plastic surgeon. The social aspects can be fun and you're young. I understand that. Exercise your discernment and just know there are a lot of negative consequences if you'll continue your use. Reach out to my addiction services in your community. You're legally an adult, so they will respect your privacy. All of the luck to you, lad. You got this. And we have never received another update from the OP, and I really hope that the OP was able to get the help he needed and kick this nasty addiction before it got too late, because as many people in the comment section here said, that it's a slippery slope, and if the OP doesn't get off now, it could get bad really fast. And so hopefully the OP is doing better now and just back to his regular life. I committed a felony over a bike. I have chronic anxiety and a giant fear of my dad. And also, I'm a stupid, rebellious teenager that's stupid. So one night, my friend George and I decide to take out the panel of my window and walk into town for snacks at 4 a.m. Not sure why. We crossed train tracks illegally. We hid from cop cars. It was actually quite fun. The only reason I stopped is because of the reason I'm about to tell you. So we'd done this a good 8 or 9 times, and we'd never been scared or anything. So we thought, let's bring our bikes and we can get snacks faster. And my dumbass didn't bring a lock. So we go into my garage around 2:30 a.m., bring the bikes out through the door, and just barrel down the road. I'm not gonna lie, I felt high. I was sober, and still that was such a good feeling. The brisk wind against my face in pitch black, going full speed on my bike with only streetlights guiding us. So we get to the 24-hour restaurant. For the sake of the story, we'll call it McDonald's. It was a local chain. They have a bike lock in the back, but there were some sketchy looking guys. In retrospect, they're nice guys, I met them later, and me, being the world's biggest idiot, decided to park our bikes out back of a piano store in the single sketchiest alleyway that I have ever seen. So we get our food, whatever. I think the lady thought we were homeless because she gave us free hash browns. Anyways, we get back to the alleyway, and I can't find my bike. So I turn on my iPhone flashlight and point it at my feet. And I swear to God, I have never been more scared in my entire life. The bike was gone. My friend's was still there, but mine was gone. The thief had replaced it with their own, effed up garbage bike that I rode home. So my friend and I went home, and I somehow got to sleep. The next morning, I rode that hunk of junk all the way back into town, and you know what I did? I purposefully fell over, covered myself in dirt and blood, and called my mom. To make it a long story short, I told her that I basically just got grand theft biked and some older dudes jacked our bike. She arrives on scene. calls the police, calls my dad. Dad comes, drives my brother around to see if they can find the little assholes. Policeman takes both me and my friend to make sure our story checks out. Somewhere on this planet, there is a tape recording me confessing to a crime that didn't happen. Somehow, we both kept our story perfect. I filed a false police report. Felony. I have no idea how I wasn't caught. But it still haunts me to this very day. I sabotaged my uncle's life and now he has nothing. He is a terrible person in general. He is manipulative, abusive, causes family drama, steals from family and friends to feed his drug and escort addiction, and has destroyed property as an intimidation tactic to keep people under his control. I've recently learned that he is severely physically and mentally abusive towards his son and his girlfriend. I called his employer and tipped them off to his drug habits. He lost his job after failing a drug test. I told his girlfriend's family about his physical abuse. They came and got physical revenge and took her back with them. I called CPS anonymously and told them about his relationship with his son. The child has been taken into custody by the state. I heard his girlfriend is gathering evidence to press charges against him. Soon, his freedom will be gone too. And I feel horribly guilty. I destroyed a man's life. What was once righteous is now crippling shame and self-resentment. I'm no better than him. I hurt people too. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, "You didn't destroy his life. He did it himself. Addiction is a disease, but choices are made by us. He could have chosen to get help, stop, or simply don't be violent. He is responsible for his decisions. You just simply brought him to justice faster and possibly saved 2 lives. If anything, you did a really hard task. It's not easy reporting a family member like that. He will more than likely sober up in custody and realize how bad he messed up. If he will change, I don't know. Probably not. But he will sober up in jail, more than likely, and that's already a step to get him help." Someone else says, "You are different than him. You hurt him, but you did it in order to save people from his abuse. Protecting innocent people justifies causing that harm. His abuse was not justified. He did not do those awful things for anyone but himself. You saved people." And someone else says, "He destroyed his own life with his abusive tendencies and bad decisions. Maybe this will be his rock bottom and he'll turn his life around." My mom has paranoid schizophrenia. I sometimes enjoy using her irrational paranoia to torment her. I do feel bad, but sometimes I cannot help myself. I am 31 years old now, and have been her main caregiver since she became ill, when I was very young. I won't lie, my life is an utter waste, and I am utterly unsuccessful in career, money, relationships, and health, including my own mental health. Her delusions, which were not treated for many years, formed my childhood and instilled in me unhealthy habits and traits, which I cannot be bothered to go into right now. Being a carer for a parent alone for many years has also not been very good in terms of jobs. So much so that I've spent a lot of time in part-time flex jobs, for example, call center jobs. I do love my mom, but I am so resentful of her. But sometimes it overwhelms me. I end up lashing out passively aggressively. One of the main delusions she has is that people and family place curses on her. This evening, she started talking about it, and I got more and more annoyed that I accused her of putting curses on me. She kept saying she would never do that, but I kept going on and on accusing her of it. I couldn't stop. She just cried and left the room, and I Well, I felt nothing. I was just glad I could carry on watching TV in peace. There are so many examples that, at the time, I enjoy and get pleasure from, but then after I feel so ashamed. I am otherwise a good carer and look after her and make sure her needs are met, not just physically or financially, but emotionally and socially. The pressure is just too much sometimes.